show that brings you unfiltered insights from the world of entrepreneurs. On today's episode of Sound Advice, we will meet the duo behind ROOBBA, the affordable yet luxury furniture brand that has taken the world by storm. Jade and Dominic Peter will be sharing how they use AI and AR to create a personalised shopping experience for fans on a budget, how they got ROOBBA into British Vogue, and how they have grown their Instagram to more than 15,000 followers, using the platform as a major sales channel. Welcome, Dominic and Ella. How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're doing really well, thank you.
Yes.
Really well.
Great to be here.
I can't wait to hear this story because I feel like there's been quite a few brands that have tried to disrupt and revolutionise the world of online furniture retail. And yet you guys have done something slightly different and you seem to have cracked it. Can you tell me a bit about why you started the business and what's so different about your approach?
Let's take it back. My background is really in furniture, interior design, definitely the luxury element of it. So my background was I used to have my own brand called Jade, and that was basically almost the 1% of the luxury interior design world, creating really beautiful, almost extravagant designs for a really luxury audience. And, you know, in that scene, you do elevate design. You do empower those people that you are designing for. And so we stepped back and we sort of came together and we were like, well, why is that not the case in almost the affordable market? The design concept is not the same. So I think from that point of view, we really came together and we were like, how do we create this beautiful luxury empowering design that you can get in the luxury industry, but somehow manage to create an affordable product. And that's where we came together from our skill sets. And I think our skill sets sort of are the founding measures of the business. And for me and for Dominic, it's definitely about the behind the scenes of the affordable luxury market. So for us, it's, well, how do we disrupt actually what goes on behind the scenes? Not necessarily what goes on in front of the scenes in terms of what people see, but what goes on behind the scenes. And how do we use our expertise in terms of the manufacturing side and the logistics side that Dom is obviously very, very good at, to really lower the cost price for our consumers so that I can design on a higher level to empower, but really reducing the cost so we can give that affordable price.
Yeah, that's spot on. I don't need to say anything more.
No, please.
No, that's it. That's exactly it. High-end designs, being super smart to figure out ways to keep the cost as low as possible for our customers.
There you go. That's the conclusion.
And how do you define affordable? Because I have to admit, I've lost quite a lot of time. I'm about to move house, and I've been looking at your looks and looking at everything from your ottomans to your kind of kitchen setups. But I have noticed that like a sofa is like $2,500. So I was wondering, like, how do you qualify that like affordable, and who are your customers?
So the key thing here, I feel like Dom's going to jump in a second, but I'll jump in real quick, is that the member's price. So $2,500 is our, for example, regular price. But if you become a member of ROOBBA, which I think we'll move on afterwards in terms of our membership, you can get a sofa for $1,300, $1,200. So yeah, we've definitely worked our way over the past year, especially, to really reduce the price for our members. And I think affordable is in terms of the value that you get. So, for example, our sofas. Sofas in general for us are the comfort. So we put the maximum level of comfort in the padding of the cushions and the backrests, and in terms of comfort, but also longevity. So it doesn't, for example, sink after a year, which you don't want. You want to retain the shape of the sofa. And also, for example, all of our products, like our dining chairs and bar stools, are fully assembled. So,
and I think affordability it comes on a relative scale. So we obviously, when we're pricing product, when we're launching new product, we're looking at the market. So we're looking at, obviously there's years and years of sales data in this industry. It's not a new industry. So we can look at, okay, well, what is the affordable market? What is the top? What is the bottom? What is the middle? Where do we want to sit with a particular product based on what's in the market already? The market is driving what is high, what is low, and then we kind of we always strive to go as low as possible. That's always the push, and I think we usually end up with kind of a mid to low level for the product we're offering. So for the level of quality, for the style, for the size, for example, and for what we think the longevity of it will be, then we kind of put all those metrics together, look at the market and say, well, this we think is a fair price or a low price for that product. Obviously, you can always find a cheaper sofa, but actually that sofa's probably not going to last. It's probably a lot smaller, not made with such good high quality. So that's one of the things. Even though we're going luxury affordable, it's not cheap, cheap like materials and things like that, because that's counterproductive to what we're trying to do. We want to keep the luxury look and feel as much as we can. Obviously, there's certain materials which are going to be too expensive, but we don't want to compromise on the quality.
But also counterproductive to the consumer. Like if you buy a sofa, let's say that's £700 and ours is £1,100, but that sofa, almost is rubbish after a year and a half, you're going to have to pay another £700. You're already paying £1,400. So
my grandma was very wise, and she always said something cheap now is usually expensive in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, some of our sofas and dining tables, and I mean, some of the pieces compare with IKEA prices. So affordable. If we can talk about affordability, hopefully that's the level.
Well, we've had this phrase on the show before, which is reassuringly expensive, which is you just want it to be high enough that people think, right, that is made well. There's not some child toiling away in a factory on the other side of the world who's made this. Yeah, so there's that kind of reassuringly, the right price so that you feel like you're paying for quality materials. And I feel like that's been a thread that's come through a lot of successful businesses that have been on the show, that they found that point.
Yeah, I agree. We also moved our entire supply chain from Asia, from China to Europe. So for us, that's incredibly important. We can control on a much greater scale, and the level of quality is for us much higher. So we're very proud to manufacture in Europe.
And I'd love to talk to you a bit more about that in a moment. But I wanted to talk about this membership idea, because when I saw the website, I was like, this is the game changer, because you feel like you're in a secret club if you're a member, and you get these special prices. But then also that must be a really great incentive that if anything breaks and you need to replace it, your first stop will then be ROOBBA. Tell me about that membership concept and how powerful it's been for the business, but also like how does it work?
So it's all about community for us. We started this brand, and I think we always said to ourselves, we need to be true to us and who we are and what we love and what we're passionate about. And for us, it's definitely about a community and bringing people together, but being proud of a brand. I think that's very important. So having a membership of ROOBBA, there's a number of benefits to that. For example, we offer a dedicated customer service assistant. So throughout your order, you have one person that you can go to, which is quite rare, I think, for an online consumer shopping experience. Mm-hmm. As well as, for example, we have design services. So if you want a technical layout, we can do that for you. We also have sofa recycling. So, for example, if you wanted to, buy a new sofa and you have an old one, we recycle it for you. A number of reasons, obviously sustainability, and charity-wise as well. So we really don't just want to send it to landfill. We send it to people that obviously have use for it. As well as that, we have our membership prices. So that's basically heavily discounted in terms of in comparison to the regular ones. And for us, obviously, all we'd say is our promise as a brand is that we will always put the best prices forward to our members. So, whether that's cost savings, we take a hit ourselves. We're very honest and open about that, because for us, our members are our most, valued consumers, and we very much adore having a membership as ROOBBA. So for us, I think if you're looking to obviously purchase on ROOBBA, having that membership usually is £50 a year. Sometimes there are free promotions, so you could get it for free. But having that almost it allows you to sort of save a lot of costs, but also allows you to utilize all of our services.
Yeah, and I suppose from like a business perspective, there's a lot of players in the furniture market who go on cyclical sales throughout the year. So kind of 4 or 5 times a year, they go on pretty heavy sales. And I think what we didn't want to do that. We wanted to try and be affordable all year round. We didn't want to build up to like the Easter holidays, which is a very big furniture selling time, or even Black Friday, which we obviously have to do. But we wanted to try and say, hey, listen, we are not putting heavy margins in our product. We're keeping it as lean as we can. We don't have showrooms. We're saving as much cost as we can to give it to you as the consumer. We want to empower you to get the best you can without us skimming loads off of the top of it. And I think that was a really important thing for us. And I think the second point was, when we're setting out looking from a business perspective, rather than just the consumer side, looking from the business side, it was to do with brand stickiness. That a lot of furniture brands are kind of one-off shops. You buy from them once because you liked that specific product, and you feel no connection to them ever again to come back. And it's something that is done a lot better in the fashion world. People feel a much closer kind of relationship to the brands they shop from. They go there straight away, whether it's, I don't know, Zara or whatever. You think, okay, I need some stuff. Let me look there first. Let me see what I find. Whereas we found in the furniture world, it was more, let me search for a product and I'll buy it from wherever within reason I find it. And we kind of wanted to turn that on its head. And we wanted to create like a kind of lifestyle brand that people are connected to. So we could give them more, but also from a business perspective, there's more repeat custom. People are more connected with the brand. And as you said, I need something new. Let me quickly check on ROOBBA, what's new, what's coming, rather than shopping the other way around. And I think that was really important for us to create this kind of brand stickiness, I think I would call it.
Yeah.
So that people felt really close to the brand, which is for us amazing because we want to create the community. But looking at from both perspectives, from the business side as well, obviously it's very powerful.
That's really interesting how a membership might seem like something quite simple, but actually the benefits are manifold. And I love that you guys aren't dragging people out stuffed with turkey on Boxing Day to get your 50% off, which is what I remember from my youth, the adverts on Boxing Day, like, get down here today and get your phone and a sofa for 55% off. And I love how you guys bounce off each other, and you clearly have a lot of rapport between you. Can you tell me a bit about how you came to be co-founders?
So we actually met personally first. So that was the first step. It was coming together as partners before the co-founding. So we're probably quite funny. Most people have a tick box of the right height, funny or whatever. Yeah. We probably checked each other's CVs to make sure that there was the potential was there. We're both founders. We were both founders previous to coming together on other businesses. So yeah, we came together in that sense. And then obviously a while after that, we co-founded ROOBBA because we're both so hungry to found. So we were both so hungry to found something, and we both kind of found this idea. Well, I think I came in, saw Ella's business, and then had loads of questions and loads of things, and then we kind of came together with ROOBBA and the changes. So that's very powerful in its own right. Obviously, being together, it has its challenges, of course, because it's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We're business partners, right? As much as people say, "Oh, I want to work from home, I can't stop." Well, if you take it a step further, where you're sitting in bed and at 1 a.m, you have an idea, well, you're sitting next to your co-founder, so you can quickly...
I think it's personally, I think it's very efficient. So, when I'm like have an idea at 1 a.m. and I can be like, okay, let's just have a quick meeting now. I personally think it's very efficient.
I find it less efficient, if I'm honest, but yeah, it's...
no, I think
I need to sleep.
We'll agree to disagree on that point, but I think we get a lot done personally. I mean, there's no work hours. You can literally go all night, like in terms of, ideas and creativity and
there's nothing getting in the way. I think sometimes if you're founding a business with someone and then you come home, kind of. There can sometimes be, I know from past experience and from like friends and stuff, there can be a bit of a pull in two directions sometimes, your personal life and your business life, which is fine. Obviously, people need work-life balance, but I think we just have work balance.
Maybe we just need a little bit more than life balance, but that's fine.
So most people's traditional date nights, ours are just meetings in other locations.
But maybe that will all come later. So once... No, as in when the balance part, because this business is still very young. I think it's only about 3 years old. So that's always the most frenetic point in a business journey. So maybe when ROOBBA hits sort of 5 or you bring in more management, that's when you get like 5 date nights a week as opposed to no date nights a week.
I think it's just the kind of people we are as well, right? We're so passionate in what we're doing. We don't really... I think the old adage is if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. We love what we do. We want to talk about it. We want to like think of the next big idea or whatever. We don't I'm not like, I need to run away. So, okay, you have your moments and you have to run away for a few hours. But in general, it's not a chore for us. We enjoy it. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. It's too stressful and too time consuming to do it if you don't like it.
I think, you have to be realistic that it's not easy. Nothing is easy. It's always, whether you're a co-founder and you're together or you're a co-founder and you're not together, like there's always going to be challenges, pros and cons to everything. But I think you also just have to, through the hard times, through the good times, you just have to keep going. And I think that's the most important thing. We're trying to achieve something here that is not the norm. And I think sometimes you forget when you have challenges that it's, it's not plain sailing. Well, no, because if it was, you'd be creating something potentially that was a little more simple or easier. And so for us, we have to keep firm in our vision. We have to keep firm in on what we're trying to achieve here. And there's so many things behind the scenes, like how we bring out new designs and logistics and all of the things that we're trying to create with our marketing. And it's not the normal. And I think that's what we're proud of, is that we can achieve that together. And so when we do go through the hard times and we come out the other side and we've achieved it, we can look at each other, and it is one of the best feelings. So yeah, I wouldn't change it. Maybe some things, but I wouldn't change this.
Well, it seems like this is actually kind of a good business idea. If you were both looking for sort of fellow founders in your personal lives, maybe there's like an entrepreneur dating site that needs to happen.
I think it should happen.
And that'd be really funny, like a Tinder, but it's got like your CV headlines.
Yes,
that's really fun.
But to be fair, I will just say the only good thing, which is not the only good thing, but one of the good things is that we have different skill sets, and I think that's key in finding a co-founder, because and I think thankfully that was, because yes, we probably did look at the CVs, but thankfully we do have different skill sets. Dom is very much like the manufacturing, logistics, tech, finance, and for me, I'm almost this crazy visionary, the person that thinks outside the box, and then Dom goes, okay, well, how do we create that? And the marketing, the design, all the collaborations, the ideas. So I think for us, it's the creative, almost, it comes together quite well. And I think if you are looking for a co-founder, the different skill sets for me is very important, so you don't clash. That's 100%. I think very key.
100%.
Yeah, that's good advice. And Ella, what you said about basically having barriers, and every time you surmount a barrier, it's good for you guys, but that's also a barrier to entry for someone else who might be trying to do the same thing. I love that sort of concept that it kind of needs to be difficult, it needs to be hard, or it's not worth doing and everyone else can do it. Can you talk me through some of the biggest challenges, and they can be across anything? You mentioned moving or manufacturing, for example, marketing. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a business, and how has dealing with those challenges made ROOBBA stronger?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. I probably think we both have key answers to that. I'll let Don talk about manufacturing, logistics, and for me, it's definitely the way we bring out designs. That's number one. And number two is the concept of our marketing. So number one, designs. So if you were, for example, to buy from China, you do have to buy a certain amount of, for example, if you're buying a table in a certain size, in a certain wood color, in a certain metal base, you are limited by the fact that you have to buy a certain quantity of that. So therefore your buying choices are limited, and therefore your consumer choices are limited. So the amount of products you can put on your site is limited. And that for me was a big challenge that I wanted to overcome for us as a business. I don't believe that should be the case for the consumers, because fundamentally, if you go on the site and you want you see the table that you like, but they don't have the size and they don't have the color that you want, you won't buy it. And it also doesn't give the right choice to the consumer. So we have invested in this for the last year, and it's been hard, but we are really excited actually for the next month actually, where we've got a lot launching on the site. We essentially have invested into technology and 3D and designing in terms of, we design basically through 3D, but the way that we have our team operating is that everything is very sort of technical. So the technical team talk to the 3D team, talk to the manufacturing team. So everything goes on behind the scene. And so we do all the work for the consumer prior. It's not just, we don't just buy off a shelf essentially. And then once everything is sort of like ticked in all the different boxes from the design, manufacturing, technical element of it and price point, we then essentially can just launch to site. And we launch to site in every single size, in every single colour, because of the way that we operate our manufacturing linked with our design team. So everything's designed in-house, and obviously we manufacture it under our full control. So we basically have full control of what we can offer to the consumer. So as you would buy like a table, a one size, one colour, one base, and offer that to the consumer, we now can offer that same table in 7 different sizes and 4 different colour tops and 2 different coloured bases, and you can literally pick and choose, almost like you're customising your own piece. Yeah. So that was, it's not been easy for sure. But I think I'll let Dom talk about
interestingly,
manufacturing.
I just wanted to link back to a previous point that this whole kind of model links back to the affordability, because by doing this, we don't have to hold endless amounts of stock. We don't have to have big warehouses. We don't have to have loads of warehouse staff, so we can keep our prices lower. So that, again, it was kind of looking at that challenge. Even though this way of manufacturing, we have yet to find a manufacturer that loves it. You have it's a lot of manufacturers. Excuse me. A lot of manufacturers are kind of set in an older way of working.
Yeah.
Order 1,000 pieces from me, don't talk to me again for a bit, come back and do it again, and keep doing it. And we've battled for 3 years to say, no, that isn't how the market is dictating. A lot of the brands are trying to operate in a more lean way like we do, but the retailers behind don't want to do it. They just don't want to have a bar of it, really. And so that's been a really, really big challenge, is trying to convince and readjust the way we work. And that was one of the big changes we made when we moved to our factories in Europe, and we invested there, and we kind of created a really, really strong partnership. So the manufacturing is essentially in-house with us, and we kind of built this model around what the consumer wants and then translated it all the way through the supply chain. And I think I would say that now, after about 3 years, it finally feels like really solid and like it's really just running. And that, I think, was probably, from my perspective, one of the biggest challenges, was saying, because a lot of the time people are like, no, it won't work like this, it won't work. And I'm like, well, I know it can, because it just makes sense, but it's just trying to adjust people's way of thinking. And sometimes when you're coming into a market and you're trying to, I'm not going to use the word revolutionize it, but just to change it, or just think slightly differently, people don't want it, especially when the other one does technically work. For the manufacturers, people are buying stock, they're putting it in their warehouses, so they're happy. But for us, when we partnered with our team in Europe, and we kind of came together, we kind of sold this vision of how it should be, and they understood it, and we've kind of built from there. So that was definitely a massive challenge. The other thing is logistics. I think people underestimate how big the stuff is. Sounds obvious. But if you start up a clothing brand or a t-shirt brand, I always say this to Ella, like sometimes, I wish we were just selling t-shirts. Because I could just pack them myself. They could be in another room.
Yeah.
But when you're shipping like big container loads worth of furniture, the logistics company call it uglies.
Yeah.
They call big stuff like this uglies, because no one wants to put it through their network. It's difficult, it's expensive, it's hard to move. So again, finding the best way of moving stuff without paying the earth, because again, obviously the cost thing keeps coming back, was hard. And finding just really good logistics companies. We've been through a lot of people that we work so hard to get the sale, to work with the customer, to manufacture the product, and then they just break it. And it's like, it's so frustrating. And it took a long time and a lot of changes and fiddling and moving around to figure that side of it out, to say, okay, well, which pieces move where, how does it go? Because it isn't obvious. Yeah, you've got normal couriers and things like that, but everything has to have its own way. And obviously the really big stuff needs a specific way, having 2 people move it and things like that. So that from the logistics side, that's obviously been a challenge. And again, I'm happy to report that everything is pretty smooth now. So it takes a long time, because you're building so many parts at once. It's not like sometimes if you build a piece of technology or whatever, you sit down, you build a piece of technology.
One thing at a time.
Yeah.
You kind of go, okay, here's the beta, let's launch that, let's go. Whereas we started selling pretty quickly. Obviously, we built some things behind the scenes, the website, the supply chain, to a point, but we started selling pretty quickly. So we're simultaneously selling to customers, managing the customer experience, managing the customer journey, whilst rebuilding bits of the supply chain in the back end, in the behind. But we can't obviously let that impact the output. So that's a challenge. We're constantly iterating as an e-commerce business. That's kind of how it has to be done. valued and looked at on our revenue. It's not like, okay, well, we've spent 3 years building this thing. Now I think we'll do really well and we'll sell it. Well, no one is interested in that from a valuation perspective. It's, well, how much you sell a product, how much are you making? So you kind of have to do it simultaneously, and that's difficult because you kind of, I say you're like running along, but you're missing one of your legs, like so, and you have to try and build the leg whilst you're running, right?
That is the classic definition of the entrepreneur, and I can't remember who wrote it, but it was that you jump out of a plane and you have to build a parachute on the way down.
Exactly, and that's exactly it. And the parachute's still being built right now behind the scenes somewhere. So
I don't think you ever. I think everyone who's ever been an entrepreneur or is an entrepreneur, is founding their own business, will say the same thing, that you never quite finish building that parachute. And I think you shouldn't. I don't think you should ever stop building that parachute, because I don't think then you'll ever stop trying to revolutionize what you're trying to achieve. But also, there's something about an entrepreneur that if you're happy with being safe, I don't think you're an entrepreneur. I don't. Yeah. I think you'll always have that mindset that you need to push boundaries and you need to just almost keep floating on down with a broken parachute, blah, 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 because that's when you can offer something else to your industry, to your market, to your consumers.
I think it's an interesting point as well, because if you look back in history and almost like read books and look at other businesses, the businesses where the co-founders or the founders step away at some point, maybe after IPO, whatever, and it gets handed over, often don't do that well, because that like hunger and vision and like the building of the parachute kind of goes, and it can go into a slightly more corporate setting. And I think sometimes they lose that passion and power. Look at Amazon, for example, right? Jeff Bezos, like, okay, I know he's recently stepped back, but he's been behind that the whole way with that exact direct vision of what he wanted to create. Exactly. And I think that's what makes them. Look at Elon Musk, look at like the two of the biggest. I think that makes such a difference. If you hand it over to someone else who didn't have the blood, sweat and tears, who didn't have that complete vision of what they wanted to create, I think it has an impact on that perspective.
Then it struggles. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. I could talk about this parachute idea for ages, but I've got to ask, you mentioned marketing and reaching customers as being an interesting challenge. And I did notice that you were being quite forward thinking in the use of sort of augmented reality, and that artificial intelligence is also something that's come into play in terms of your concept and delivery. Can you tell me a bit about that? Like, a lot of people listening to this might just think that AI and AR are just buzzwords, but how are they applied and useful and practical in terms of ROOBBA?
So it's all about the shopping experience. So it's all about how do we give what you used to be able to get into a shop when you walked in online. And one of the issues people have is they don't know what they want and how to find it. So if, for example, you want a blue and gold chair, you can search blue and gold chair, you'll see a few options, you're probably going to choose one. But what if you've just bought a new house, you've got a space, and you have absolutely no idea how to create that space? You don't know what to put in it. You don't know what's going to fit. You don't know how it's going to go together. What's going to look nice. Well, where do you start? What do you search? Room, kitchen, like living. It's impossible. And so you end up endless scrolling on Instagram or on Pinterest to try and see some inspiration. But then, how does that translate into a purchase? Because maybe that's just someone's image from their house. No idea what the products are. They're not tagged. So for us, it's about revolutionizing that whole experience for the consumers, to allow them to give us various different inputs or whatever it is, and then be able to buy product and find what they want. Like when you walk around IKEA, for example, right? It's a good example. You look at the little settings. Oh, that's nice. You buy the whole setting. You look at another one. You buy the whole setting. That's a more difficult experience online to create. Well, in some settings it's easier because you don't need endless IKEA warehouses to do it. You can just do it on the screen. But it's difficult to give that kind of richness of the experience to the consumer. So from the AI perspective, yeah, it's a massive buzzword, but it's about the intelligence of us knowing, if you give us some information, what do we give you back?
So do you generate a look for the customer? So if they show interest in a certain sofa or a chair, does your website then plug that into an engine that spits out, like, this is how it could look in a room, and these are some of the nice accents you could put with it, and that kind of thing?
It hasn't fully launched yet, but yes,
It will do that.
It will do something like that. There's going to be various different ways of inputting to us. So whether it be text, whether it be photo, a style, whatever it is, and some sizing information if that's something you want to give, and then we'll be able to output the information in the way that you need it, whether you are looking for a whole space or just a mood board of product or whatever it is. It's kind of that customer journey we're looking to kind of revolutionize with AI. AR is like augmented reality, so it's being able to look at product in a space, which is not something we're going to use massively, but it is a cool tool to be able to say, okay, well, how will this look in that corner? And it's a nice kind of feature on a product page to be able to add. But the main core of it is the kind of this artificial designer, so call it an artificial Ella, basically, so that we can create spaces for people and give, because most people don't know what they want. I wouldn't know what I wanted. I'm not a designer. I'm very lucky that I have a very good designer, but it's about that experience that kind of revolutionizes the way you shop for stuff.
Yeah, I think so for example, now we have almost static concept of what Dom just explained. We're very excited about, to be honest, the tech that we're going to bring out, and something that we're doing in-house, and we're very much looking to pinpoint the exact pain point from the consumer, and then obviously find the solution through a tech-based I think it's the concept of shopping needs to revolutionize, and especially for the home, because it's so long-winded and it takes ages, and for me it's a pain point as a consumer, let alone as a business owner. So that for me is something that I'm very passionate about. I know Dom is very passionate about that, so definitely watch that space in the next year. We're definitely very, very, very focused on that. But for now we have that version, but in a static form. So for example, we create the 3D room lifestyles with our team, so showing how, for example, dining table, dining chairs, bar stools, sofa could go all together. You like the room. You can also change the colour, for example, not necessarily in the image, but you can change the colour that you want to buy. We have a bundle discount for our members as well. And then you can literally shop out of that image, click, add to cart, check out. Ease of shopping. So for us, that's very, very important. Something we're very passionate about, and something we really look to expand in the next year or so.
And this is quite crucial, isn't it? That it's not artificial intelligence, it's artificial Ella. I love that you are bringing this sort of interior designer element, personalised shopping, to someone who, isn't a celebrity, isn't sitting on £1 million. So this sounds like a natural progression for the brand, which is amazing. And then I wanted to talk a bit about social media, because I can see that you've got loads of fans on social media, and I imagine with something so visual that is crucial for selling. So how powerful has that been? Which particular social media platforms, presumably Instagram, I don't know, maybe is describing what you do on Twitter also very powerful? You can tell me if it is. Maybe. But yeah, talk to me about the social strategy and what that's done for the business.
Yes, definitely Instagram. That is our main platform for pretty much everything. We are definitely moving into TikTok. I think that's very important as a brand, as a consumer. More so, we're creating our own ROOBBA studio, so we're going to have a lot more video content that's coming out, and really exciting concepts coming out from that. But from my point of view, social media for other brands has, I think, taken off in other brands in different industries. So for example, fashion. You look at fashion, even makeup, accessories on social media, and the concept of what they're creating through this little tiny image picture concept is very different to the furniture world. And one of the main reasons we created and we founded ROOBBA was because I was tired of the fact that the furniture industry in itself was a little bit traditional, old-fashioned, a little bit outdated with the social media marketing concept that comes out in the industry, and that is one of the main things that we are looking to build, that we've now launched, if we're in August, a collaboration with Belle Lucia on Instagram. So she's a beautiful, amazing influencer model, and we have created a collection in collaboration with her for an entire house. So her entire house is ROOBBA and is designed by ROOBBA for Belle. Very much in collaboration with her because she gave so much insight into what she wanted, and we created an entire collection that truly represents her. So, it's like what you'd see in fashion brands. Fundamentally, it's her collection, but it is now brought into a much more exciting sort of marketing campaign. And obviously, hopefully you can check out Instagram where it would all have launched. There's a lot of content that we've really sort of spent a lot of time and effort going into. So I don't want to give almost the visual element away because I want you guys to see it. But essentially, it's really representing her in this collection. So it's not just, which I always have a pet hate, it's not just someone sitting on a chair and going, hey, this is a chair.
Or it's not just about the product.
It's not just about the furniture. It's about the fact that this collection truly represents her. It truly elevates and empowers her in her home. And that for me is the most important thing of what we're trying to create at ROOBBA and what we're trying to create with these collaborations.
It's putting the people first.
Definitely.
Furniture, clothing, whatever it is, it makes you feel a certain way. It's such a key part of your life. It's not just a thing. And it's about, well, how do we put the people at the front of it? And I think social media and kind of those platforms give you such a positive way of doing that. I think for me also, from an interesting side from how I look at social media now, is any e-commerce brand in the past would spend a lot of money with SEO, optimizing for Google and search, so that when you come at the top. Whereas kind of the way I look at it now is that I think your following on Instagram and kind of that organic side of your socials is the SEO now. Because before you'd search sofa, whoever came up in the top page, they're all good brands, I'll shop in one of those. Whereas now if you've got 1 million followers, it's the same. It doesn't matter if you don't come up in the top page, because people go on your page and go, oh, they're verified, they have 1 million followers, they're obviously a good brand. So for me, I kind of have adjusted the way we think in terms of SEO, or however you want to call it. I call it like organic optimization, and harnessing the social media platforms, which people use so much. I think are especially because people are kind of speculative when they're shopping for us. They're kind of, ideas, creative, rather than I know exactly what I want, which we discussed earlier. So from that perspective, I think the social channels are huge from the organic side. Obviously, there's the paid side and the ads and all this stuff, but there's the organic side, which we're trying to harness with these partnerships, trying to create kind of powerful messaging and this kind of theme of empowerment. We feel like that is what's going to give us that kind of organic edge, which hopefully translates into the kind of the new SEO, as I like to call it.
I need to know though, how did you choose Belle? Because there are so many influencers out there, and this is such an all-in partnership where, like, you're basically, the blend is absolute between this personality and your brand. So what questions did you ask? How did you sort of interrogate all the options? Because I can imagine a lot of people listening might be interested in sort of influencer marketing in a general sense, but will be fascinated to know how you choose this one person.
To be honest, it was very organic. And I know this is like a non-scientific way of looking at influencer marketing, but my advice honestly it has to be organic, because then you will vibe off each other, because fundamentally the brand is you as a founder. And the best collaborations and the best partnerships I've ever worked on is when you're both on the same page and you're both able to agree, not necessarily agree, but you're on the same page in terms of what the vision is and what you're trying to create, and you're going to put the same amount of effort and energy into it. I
think I'll just throw one word in there. It's authentic.
Yeah.
It's authenticity. And I think because influencer marketing has come such a long way, it's not the same as it was a few years ago, where they just posted it and it did well. People now see through it. In the same way now people know they're getting advertised to from an ad popping up. It's not like, oh wow, look, this is it. People know the ad's there, and it's the same with influencer marketing now. People know it's a paid ad, and people they have to write #paid or whatever. So again, it's about going the step further and creating something, like I said, which is super authentic. So we wanted to partner with Belle because all our core values, they kind of aligned. We knew she wanted a new space, and was she already a fan, or did she buy something, or did she get in touch and say, hey, I love what you're doing? Like, how did the kernel of the relationship start?
I mean, it was that she, well, really her agent at the time got in touch, and Belle said that she really loved the products and really loved the style. I think honestly, there's two folds to this, as Dom was saying. It's the fact that it is authentic because of the fact that she really liked the brand, but also the style. I mean, in terms of what we create, it's very much represents her. Again, it's like fashion, right? It's like you choose a brand because of the style.
The shoe fits.
Yeah, exactly. But also because, look, she is beautiful soul inside and out. She's very family orientated, really lovely, kind person. And obviously for us, that's like, in itself an amazing fit because she represents what we want to represent as a brand. But also because she was passionate as well about what we wanted to try and create. And I think it goes along with that authentic concept where you're not just doing a collaboration where we're pushing forcefully onto the influencer something that the influencer's not either passionate about or bothered about or wants to really get involved in, and therefore it just won't work in that situation. We're collaborating, so it's not just, hey, I'm dictating what you need to do as a brand and you need to do that as an influencer, almost like a sale. It was very much as the word says, partnership, collaboration, where we both came together and we both created something that we're very passionate about, and that's why it was authentic and that's why it was organic. And I think if you can, for anyone listening who's doing influencer marketing, was wanting to collaborate with a certain influencer, for me it's not just the first person. And I will say that because I think it's quite easy and quite almost like as a brand, you kind of want to be like, well, I want to get going really quickly and I need to like, push out my brand and influencer marketing, and whoever I can get, I will go for. But actually take a minute, and maybe it's not the right person at the start, because you do spend a lot of investment as a brand with the influencer marketing, and absolutely that's our passion and our joy, but it has to be right. So if it's not the right person will come along for the brand, and don't worry about that. And
bear in mind that person is going to be the face of your brand, right? You may not be the face of it, like we're not super in the spotlight yet. So if you choose the wrong person or it doesn't resonate with the consumer, then that's different. And especially if you spent so much time building this kind of network of consumers or an audience, and then suddenly you throw out something which is really wrong, that can be super detrimental. So just be careful who you choose.
Avoid the knee-jerk reaction when it comes to consumer marketing.
100%.
And guys, Ella especially, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about something, and I hope you're willing to talk a little bit about it, which is that you were on The Apprentice. So I would like to know what you took away from that experience that has proved useful in building this business. Was there anything that you learned on that show or the way that you were tested that then helped you become a more productive, efficient, good problem solver as a founder?
Grit, determination. Yeah, I think what you see behind the scenes, what you see on the TV story is different to what you see behind the scenes. You are literally sleep deprived beyond measure. Maybe you do see that on TV, and my bags were very obvious, but in terms of it is very much like on the go. You're woken up at 4:30 a.m. having slept 2 hours with a camera in your face, and you're told to get ready in 20 minutes and be downstairs, and then plonked a brief in front of you. So imagine doing that on a day-to-day basis. Pressure is probably the number one word that comes to mind. And how do you handle pressure without panicking, without stressing? I think for me that was the biggest takeaway of that, because fundamentally every episode, every challenge that you're given is different, and that is quite similar to what you do
every day. There's a new challenge, and you have to think differently. Thankfully, there's less politics between us than in The Apprentice. But
well,
I think
sometimes. The politics was a whole other level. But to be honest, you have to deal with politics in business, and the people that you deal with in business. For sure. You definitely have to deal with politics. So I think that's definitely a takeaway of that. But I think pressure. I think you're always under pressure in business. You always have to handle something, and that was definitely the biggest skill, I would say, that you have to learn to have. If you don't already have it, you have to learn to have it, and if you do have it, you have to keep on having it, in terms of how to handle pressure. And
I think it also, sorry, just not that I was on it, but I obviously know. I think it's like a sink or swim kind of mentality.
Yes.
And on that program, you will sink hard and fast, or you swim. And it's the same in business. Like, you could easily end up under the water, but if you keep pushing yourself, which you have to do there every day, when you think it's impossible, when you think it's too hard, it's too much, you carry on. And I think that's kind of the main thing that comes out of that kind of program is that resilience and persistence. That's really, really key.
I think I always speak to my friend about this. I mean, she's an amazing founder as well, and we always have phone conversations. And there's one line that we always say to each other, and I always think about it. It's the people that keep going. It's the people that don't stop. And I will say that as my one single piece of advice, if I have one advice to give right now, is because it's very easy to stop. I think it is, because something happens, a challenge happens, and you're just like, okay, well, you know what, like, it's not working, or I'll do something else, or, you know, I think. And sometimes, to be honest, maybe those are the clever and intelligent people that do that, because they have probably a less
More
stressful life. But for me, the one line that we keep going and keeps on in my mind is the people that keep going will reach the finish line. And for me, I think for us, that's what we will always never give up, and we will always keep going and stay firm to our vision and stay firm to our dream, because 100% we believe in it.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's very, very good advice. My only add on to that is just to always question yourself, because you can easily become a busy fool. You can easily end up, I'm working super hard, this is the right way, and then you look back and you think, what did we really achieve in 6 months? That wasn't the right route, or whatever. So you have to keep going, but keep questioning. So make sure that you're going in always as close to the right direction. It will never be the perfectly right direction. It's always snakes and ladders. That's how I describe it. You go up a bit, down two, up a bit more, down two, but keeping going and keeping kind of the vision in mind is definitely. And
be proud of what you're achieving. I think that's incredibly important, because I think, especially for us, like, we're very harsh on ourselves, for good reason, because I think, you know, you always push yourself. We always want to push ourselves constantly. But there are some times where you can be your biggest critic, and that can be sometimes, you know, hard on yourselves. You know, we always tend to go, oh, what about this? Whereas actually we're like, well, actually look what we've achieved in the last 6 months and the year and 2 years, and be very proud of that. And sometimes you have to give that positivity as well as that criticism to yourself in order to keep pushing yourselves to the best that you can be, because your mind needs that. Your mind needs positive reinforcement. And yeah, I think it's always important to be proud of what you're achieving.
Amazing. And just last question, why is it called ROOBBA?
So it's a very personal reason. So my dad was my biggest inspiration. He was the most incredible businessman I've ever met. He created his empire, and I was very lucky to have been taught everything almost from him. He passed away very suddenly, and he still remains my biggest inspiration. And, you know, there are days that I wish I could ask him questions. So ROOBBA basically means spirit of father. So for us, it's a very poignant and special name, and it represents exactly what we're trying to create with the brand. And he was someone who was very visionary and would always want to give the consumer the best in terms of what he could offer. And I think that's it really represents us as founders, but also what ROOBBA represents. So that's exactly what it means.
Yeah. I'm so sorry that you lost your dad, but how amazing to see that word every day, and to have that be the thing that picks you up on a bad day, and as you say, feeds that drive and persistence that you say is so crucial to making it in this crazy world called entrepreneurship.
100%, yeah, definitely.
Guys, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show, and I feel like we've had this amazing insight into the world of ROOBBA, and you both as founders.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
it's been a beautiful break from our usually very hectic schedule, so we've really enjoyed it. Oh, I have anyway. I'm sure Ella has too.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to Sound Advice, the podcast brought to you by Sage. What a terrific story from the ROOBBA founders. Such a different and modern approach to online retailing. Thank you both for this frank and insightful discussion. We aim to bring you practical and pragmatic advice from UK founders at every stage of their business journey. How are we doing? If you like the show, get on the socials and let us know using the hashtag Sound Advice Podcast. And subscribe to this stream to make sure you never miss an episode. We'll be back next week with more Sound Advice.